All right, strap in everyone, because this time we're diving into some major tech drama.
Oh, yeah, this is a big one.
Intel's CEO Pat Gelsinger is out.
Out. Out. Like gone.
Gone. Retired.
Wow.
Effective yesterday.
Yesterday.
No.
That's not how this usually works.
No, not at all. And you know what happens when something this massive drops in the tech world?
The internet just explodes.
Yeah, it's been crazy. We've got articles everywhere. Reddit threads are blowing up. Hardware, Intel. Even Wall Street Bets is getting in on this.
Yeah, they always have an opinion.
They do. And people are just, I don't know, they're confused. They're kind of excited.
A little bit scared, maybe?
Yeah, a little bit scared. So we're diving into all of it.
We got a ton of material you guys sent in, and it seems like everyone's wondering the same thing. What does this mean for Intel? What's next?
Exactly. So by the end of this deep dive, we're going to try to make sense of it all.
We'll unpack that official announcement. We'll dig into those, juicy Reddit theories. And hopefully by the end, you'll have a much better understanding of not just the who and the what, but the why and the what next.
Think of it like a crash course in Intel, Wall Street, the whole chip industry landscape.
The whole thing.
All right, let's start with the most obvious thing.
The elephant in the room.
The timing of this.
Yeah, effective yesterday. That's not how most CEOs say, see ya later, especially not at a company as big as Intel.
Not at all. It just makes you wonder.
It raises some questions, for sure.
Was this really a retirement? Or was there something else going on behind the scene?
Right, like was he pushed?
I saw one Redditor compare this to someone grabbing 2 beers, yelling, Geronimo, and hitting the emergency slide on a plane full of investors.
I love that.
And honestly, that's kind of the vibe right now.
It really is.
Total shock and confusion. Some people are even saying Gelsinger got forced out, maybe because he wasn't seeing eye to eye with the board.
Or maybe Wall Street was putting on the pressure.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because Gelsinger came back to Intel in 2021, almost like this, I don't know, conquering hero.
Yeah.
He had all these plans.
A lot of people saw him as the guy who could save Intel.
He did, especially with that whole node leadership thing and launching Intel Foundry services.
Oh, yeah.
IFS.
Yeah, the heart of the chip world.
Let's break that down a bit for anyone who isn't super familiar with all the chip jargon.
Okay, so we're talking about transistors, the tiny little switches that make computers work.
So node leadership means being the best at making those transistors smaller and smaller.
Exactly. The smaller the node, the more transistors you can fit on a chip, which means more power, more efficiency.
Okay, so in the chip world, smaller is better.
Pretty much. But Intel had fallen behind TSMC, their big rival, in this whole race to shrink those nodes.
And Gelsinger wanted to catch up.
He wanted to put Intel back on top.
And then there's IFS, the foundry business.
That was all about opening up Intel's factories, their fabs, to other companies.
Making chips for anyone who needs them.
Exactly.
Which is a pretty big shift for Intel, right?
It is, and it's where things get really interesting when we talk about Gelsinger's legacy.
Okay, so some people, especially over on hardware, they think Gelsinger was doing what needed to be done, even if it was tough.
They say he was making those long-term choices, the ones that might not pay off immediately.
They think he saved Intel from falling even further behind.
Right. They point to that commitment to node leadership and IFS as proof he was thinking big picture.
But not everyone's so happy with how things went down.
Oh, no. There are plenty of critics out there.
They say Gelsinger's execution was just off, that he focused too much on the foundry stuff and not enough on Intel's own products.
They argue he missed out on some big opportunities, like in AI.
And then there were those PR blunders. Remember that whole thing about AMD being in the rearview mirror?
Oh, yeah, that one's coming back to bite him now.
Some people are even saying that this whole departure, maybe it was kind of a tantrum after not meeting expectations.
Interesting.
And we can't forget about the financial side of things.
Right, the money.
Critics say Gelsinger kept paying dividends to shareholders for too long instead of using that cash to, rebuild Intel.
So trying to keep Wall Street happy while also trying to reinvent the company.
Yeah, sounds like a tough balancing act.
It is, and it seems Wall Street wasn't entirely convinced.
Which brings us to how the market reacted to his sudden exit.
This is where things get a little weird.
I know, right?
Intel's stock actually went up after the announcement.
Up.
Up. Which tells us that investors weren't thrilled with the direction Gelsinger was taking the company.
So even though he had this big vision, they were getting impatient.
Seems that way. They like to see those short-term gains. And Gelsinger's plans, well, they were definitely more long-term focused.
Okay, so we've got a CEO out. Investors maybe not so happy. But then there's this other big thing, right?
What's that?
That Cheap PS Act funding Intel just got last week. billions of dollars from the government.
Yes, that timing is definitely raising some eyebrows.
For sure. So for anyone who needs a refresher, the CHPS Act is all about boosting U.S. chip production, right? So Intel getting this money, it's a big deal.
Huge.
But it also makes you wonder, was there pressure to do things a certain way to get that funding?
Like spin off the Foundry, which Gelsinger was against.
Exactly. Did he secure the funding knowing it would make Intel more attractive for a sale or a breakup? Then, peace out.
Or was it the opposite? Was he pushed out because he wouldn't make certain concessions?
Ooh, good point.
It's a bit of a mystery.
Some people on Reddit are convinced that Gelsinger basically prepped Intel for a major change, then walked away.
It's a compelling theory.
It is. It's like he set the stage, then dropped the mic.
And now everyone's waiting to see what happens next.
Exactly.
Act 2 is about to begin.
And we'll be here to break it all down for you.
Buckle up.
Oh, yeah, things are about to get interesting. I mean, it's a lot to take in, right? All this uncertainty.
Yeah, it's got to be unsettling for folks who work at Intel.
Oh, absolutely. You can see that anxiety in all those Reddit threads we've been looking at.
People are worried, right? About their jobs, their projects, the whole future of the company.
That's like, what's even going on anymore? One Redditor was joking about needing a spreadsheet just to keep track of all the CEO changes at Intel the past few years.
I saw that.
But it's not really a laughing matter if you work there, right?
No, definitely not. It raises questions about the company culture, Can Intel still attract the best engineers?
Right, because they need those top people to design those cutting-edge chips.
Exactly. Especially when you've got companies like, Apple and Nvidia, AMD.
Yeah, they're all looking pretty stable right now.
And innovative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who wants to work at a company that feels like it's constantly in crisis mode?
Nobody. This whole thing really highlights that tension between short-term profits and long-term vision.
Gelsinger, he was definitely playing the long game. But was it at the expense of, how Intel's doing right now?
It's the classic dilemma for these big tech companies, right?
Yeah.
Especially in an industry like chipmaking, where it's so expensive to innovate.
So how do you balance those demands from Wall Street with the need to, invest in the future?
It's tough. It really is.
And then you throw in that whole geopolitical angle.
Oh, yeah. Can't forget about that.
The CKS Act, it's not just about money, right? It's about making sure the U.S. isn't relying on other countries for this super important technology.
It's about national security.
Exactly. And it means your tax dollars, they're now directly supporting Intel's efforts to compete on a global scale.
High stakes.
Super high. So if Intel succeeds, if they get back that node leadership, become a major player in the foundry business.
It could be a game changer.
More competition, lower prices, more innovation.
And less reliance on foreign chip makers, which is a big deal considering the whole, geopolitical situation.
Okay, so a win for Intel could be a win for the U.S. Got it.
Potentially.
But what if they don't pull it off? What happens if they can't actually execute on this vision?
Well, if they can't catch up in manufacturing or find the right leadership, the right strategy.
That's going to be pretty.
No, they could fall even further behind AMD and Nvidia, leads market share.
And basically become irrelevant?
Yeah, which would leave the U.S. even more dependent on those foreign chip makers.
Not good.
Not good at all. It could even lead to consolidation in the industry.
Right.
Meaning companies like Qualcomm or Samsung, they might start sniffing around, maybe try to buy up pieces of Intel.
Wow, so Intel could basically get broken up.
It's possible. Some people on Reddit are even suggesting that Intel could become, nationalized.
Wait, what? Like the U.S. government takes it over?
Yeah, to prevent it from completely collapsing.
It's intense.
It is, but it shows how important Intel is, not just to the economy, but to national security.
Okay, so this is all pretty big picture stuff, but let's bring it back to you, the listener.
What should you be paying attention to as this all plays out?
Well, first and foremost, who does Intel pick as their next CEO?
Yeah, is it someone from inside who will try to keep Gelsinger's vision going?
Or do they bring in an outsider, someone who'll shake things up?
And watch what they do their first moves.
Do they stick with that foundry strategy? Or do they shift back to focusing on product development?
Layoffs, hiring sprees, all that's going to tell us a lot about their priorities.
And how about all that CTS Act money? Where does it actually go?
Right, those billions of dollars, it's your tax dollars. Keep an eye on that.
And partnerships. Who are they teaming up with?
Are they getting closer to TSMC? Or are they going it alone?
Can they attract those big customers for their foundry business like Amazon, Qualcomm?
Those partnerships are going to be crucial for Intel's future, both in terms of manufacturing and developing new products.
But let's be real, what you probably care about most is how does this impact the actual products Intel releases.
Right, the stuff you actually use.
Will we see Intel chips back on top? Will their laptops and desktops become more competitive? Or will they keep falling behind?
Those are the questions that will be answered in the marketplace, and ultimately, your tech buying decisions will be affected by all of this.
So stay informed, do your research, and don't be afraid to be skeptical.
Things are changing fast. It's going to be a wild ride.
Speaking of wild rides, remember that provocative thought we like to leave you with.
Oh, yeah. What if Gelsinger leaving wasn't a failure? What if it was all part of the plan?
What if this is setting the stage for something completely new, something we can't even imagine yet?
A merger, a new market. Maybe they reinvent themselves completely.
It's exciting to think about.
It is, and
Yeah.
it just shows that you never really know what's coming next in the tech world.
So keep your eyes peeled, your ears open, and your minds ready for anything.
The future of Intel is up in the air, but it's definitely going to be a fascinating journey.
And we'll be here to break it all down for you every step of the way.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we have.
Gelsinger's exit, how people felt about his time at Intel, that whole high-stakes game they're playing in the chip world.
All those nervous employees.
Oh yeah, can't forget about them.
Lots of anxiety.
We talked about Wall Street, short-term versus long-term vision.
And how important Intel's success is for, the whole U.S. tech industry.
But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is for you, the listener.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
Exactly,
Right.
because this isn't just some, tech industry drama playing out in the headlines.
It's bigger than that.
It is. This is about the technology you use every single day.
Your phone, your laptop.
The choices you make as a consumer, even how your tax dollars are being spent.
So let's make this practical. What should you be watching for as this story unfolds?
Okay, first things first. Who does Intel choose as their new CEO?
Big question.
Right. Is it someone from the inside sticking with Gelsinger's plan?
Someone who's been there, done that.
Or do they go outside, bring in a big name to shake things up?
Someone with a fresh perspective.
Yeah, and then what are their first moves?
Exactly. Actions speak louder than words.
Do they double down on that Foundry strategy, trying to be the chip maker for everyone?
Or do they shift focus back to their own products?
Back to basics.
Maybe. Do they tighten the belt, make some cuts? Or do they start spending big, hiring like crazy?
Those decisions, those are going to tell us a lot about their priorities.
And then there's that CHPS Act money.
Billions of dollars.
Your tax dollars at work.
We've got to watch where that goes, right?
Yeah.
Does it go to building those cutting-edge factories Gelsinger was so focused on?
Or something else entirely.
This is where things get interesting, right? Keep an eye on Intel's partnerships, too.
Oh, yeah. Who are they teaming up with?
Are they getting cozy with TSMC?
Working together.
Or going head-to-head? And who are they signing deals with for that Foundry business?
Are the big names jumping on board? Amazon, Qualcomm.
Those partnerships, those are going to be key to Intel's success, both in manufacturing and developing new products.
Oh, no doubt about it.
But let's be real. What you, the listener, probably care about most is, what does this mean for the actual products Intel puts out?
The laptops, the desktops, all that.
Will Intel be back on top, performance-wise? Will we see more innovation, maybe even lower prices?
Or will they continue to fall behind?
Those are the questions that will be answered in the products themselves, the ones you'll see in stores soon.
So do your research, read those reviews, compare prices.
And remember, as a consumer, you have power.
Your choices matter.
They do. They can influence which companies succeed and which ones fail.
Absolutely.
And as you're doing all that, keep this in mind. What if Gelsinger leaving wasn't a failure?
Ooh, I like this.
What if it was all part of a bigger plan?
To transform Intel into something totally new.
Something we can't even picture yet. Maybe a merger, a push into a completely different market.
A total reinvention.
It's kind of exciting to think about, right? Because sometimes the biggest shakeups, they lead to the most amazing outcomes.
For sure.
So stay curious, stay engaged, and don't underestimate the power of change.
The future of Intel, it's full of unknowns, but it's going to have a fascinating journey to watch.
And that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll be back soon with more stories shaping the tech world and what they mean for you.
Until then, stay curious.
Stay curious.